Okay, so there's a point I want to make here, and that is there's a lot of misunderstanding in spiritual circles about um, releasing emotions, releasing tension, not so much thinking that way because it's just an energy, but that where people assume that they're poisoning or tainting the world or whatever with negative energy. And that's not what's happening at all, folks. So it's the holding, because you're holding it in your body and your field in this world and in this context. That's what's actually causing poison, so to speak, in the earth and slowing down the evolution of the planet and humanity. It needs to be released. Everything in nature flows, nothing is held. Okay, it's natural for those things to flow, and you do what I call what happens is it's an energy. If you have a big cry, or a big angry burst, and you beat pillows and stuff like that to get those emotions out, it turns it into what I call back into the quanta of the universe. It recycles it, and then it can become something useful again. But as long as you're holding it inside you, any discomfort, any tension, any emotion, then you're stopping up the flow of the universe, so to speak. Is there anything you want to elaborate on that, Chokai?
We can totally riff on that. It's like that whole point you were making about the idea. It's like, well, if I express this, then I'm somehow tainting myself, or I'm tainting the environment. And it's like, no, no, you're releasing. Think about it this way: if you were to eat tainted food, would your body continue to try to digest it, or would you regurgitate? Okay.
Yeah.
Your body knows enough to get rid of the poison, get rid of the bad food. Well, a lot of the things that you were taught or that you experienced were ingested as bad food, tainted food. And yet you're also taught that you had to hold on to it, and that you had to deal with it somehow, or you had to manage it, or you had to let it be okay, or these kinds of things. No, no. Emotional regurgitation is just as valid as physical regurgitation. Okay. And so, releasing that is allowing you to, one, get back into balance. Okay. And to ultimately get to a higher level, because it's like carrying around bowling balls, all this heavy energy. Right. And, you know, expressing it is not harmful. Well, expressed appropriately is not harmful. Acknowledging is not harmful. It's whenever you stuff it down and try to create a barrier between you and it, that you're literally carrying around poison, energetic poison. And that's not helpful to anybody. And so acknowledging it, learning how to release it appropriately, effectively, there's plenty of tools available to make that possible, where you can really just release it and let it go, and it's gone, just gone. Okay. Never to be a torture or challenge again. And that's beautiful. Again, those emotions are valid. Okay. They're absolutely valid. But it doesn't mean you have to carry them around with you like a souvenir from a bad vacation or a bad relationship or something, because you don't. Okay. That's not really representing who you are. It's representing maybe a belief about yourself, but not who you really are, because who you really are is love. And so the more you can align with the presence and expressions of love, the more you will naturally want to release these things that don't serve you, that don't resonate with love, okay, in the strictest or most direct sense. Okay? That pain that you're releasing, that pain that you notice, really is just an invitation for love. Okay? If you're hurting emotionally, well, hurting physically. Okay? It's an invitation for love. So treat it as such, so that you become more whole. Okay?
and it's an expression of love to treat it that way. Suppression is not loving. In a way, it is from the ego's point of view because it's trying to protect, but again, from misunderstanding. Sometimes the most loving thing to do is to scream or to yell and get it out. Now, we're not talking about at other people. We're talking about this is your own process with yourself and handling that responsibly through therapeutic means. But it's totally doable. And I don't know if there's anything else you want to comment about that, but I do have another question.
Go. Yes, please go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. So this will be a great opportunity to talk about how we distinguish between emotions and feelings or feeling states and understanding that difference. This is going to help a lot of folks.
Indeed. Okay. Well, from our perspective, emotions correlate with the ego. They exist as a part of the ego, and you can have opposite emotions, right? You think of happy, sad, or however people correlate opposites. Love or indifference are opposites. And there are also soul-based feeling states. They really have no opposites: peace, joy, love. They have those. There really aren't opposites for those. Certainly not from a 5D and above unconditional state of consciousness. They're pure and they're whole unto themselves. And so, the idea is to understand that, even fear is a form of love. Even anger is a form of love, because they're both designed to be self-protection mechanisms within the ego, which you actually need if you're functioning unconsciously in this version of reality. There was a time back in the early human experiments before the ego became as sophisticated as it now is, when people would be walking along in front of the Tyrannosaurus Rex and go, "Oh, what beautiful shiny teeth," and then the Tyrannosaurus Rex would just go chomp and it'd be done, because there was no fear of it. There was no recognition of mortality. So it's like, all right, if this is going to work, we're going to have to augment the mechanism just a little bit. And so let's put the fear of something like the Tyrannosaurus Rex into them so they will know to run, so that they can prolong their lifespan in this version of reality and make it worthwhile for souls to incarnate. Otherwise, you don't get very far in that kind
Right.
of environment. And so, it's like recognizing that those are part of the package. Not good, bad, right, or wrong, just part of the package. And they serve a useful purpose. But, you're evolving when you evolve beyond that need for fear and anger as a form of love, and are more into the peace, the joy, and the pure direct experience of love. Okay? When you're not misunderstanding, but clearly understanding and expressing from, your heart, your soul. Okay. When you're really manifesting from your soul, you don't need fear, because you're not creating threats for yourself. You're not creating conflicts for yourself. You don't really need anger, because you're not creating something to defend yourself against. Okay. When you're manifesting straight from your soul. So, but until then, thank goodness you have those things, because they help you navigate this version of reality and to uh, participate longer in this version of reality than you might otherwise without them. So,
And that's an excellent motivator to become more and more aligned with our soul self is so that, you don't manifest things to struggle against. And so anyway, that's kind of a really interesting point. I wanted to cycle back around to this thing about joy. One more moment of joy than yesterday. Now, I have known you through this form for, gosh, it's like 25 years or more. And you've been saying that since the very beginning. And I was thinking just the other day, I would love for him to elaborate on that, because some days, we feel worse than other days because of some process we're going through, some grief or something triggered, some overwhelm we have to deal with. So it doesn't, it's hard to apply that one more moment of joy because it feels like, whoa, it's like way worse today. Oh no, have I gone backwards? And so how does that work? To give us more of a, like a step-by-step approach to what you mean by that, please.
Oh, well, that's a very good question. And, all right, so first of all, it's not a rule, it's a guideline, it's an aspiration, right? So, because whenever I was given this particular aspiration or guideline, I didn't, my moments of joy were a year apart, 6 months apart, right? And they were very fleeting moments of joy at that. Okay. But it was a simple aspiration that I could practice daily. Okay. It's kind of a no-brainer practice, right? All you're really doing is setting an intention to experience a preferable state of consciousness, assuming joy is preferable to you, would be to most people, right?
Right.
And then, the sneaky thing about it, which I really love this teaching because of its mischievous nature, if you want to think of it that way. I do now. I didn't then. But it's like, just in aspiring to one more moment of joy today than yesterday, you're activating mechanisms in your psyche that begin to seek out ways to experience that joy. Okay. You don't even know it's happening, but it is because you've set that aspiration to have one more moment of joy today than yesterday. Now, there is another dynamic or another thing that people have talked about, which can be surprising to some people for sure. But it's that thing of, take a penny and double it every day for a month. Well, you're starting out with a penny, which is very small. It's 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 nothing in the scheme of money, right?
Mm-hmm.
And yet, if you double it every day for a month, you might find yourself quite comfortable at the end of that month. Okay. Well, how did that happen? Well, it's just the whole compounding thing. Well, it's the same kind of deal because it's not that you have to experience a moment of joy each day of your life. But if I had a moment today, one more moment of joy today than yesterday means that when I wake up for my tomorrow, then I want to increase my capacity to experience joy, right? So that one more moment of joy may be two separate moments of joy, or maybe I won't feel any joy at all, but I've still established that intention, which means I'm automatically beginning to reorient my psyche instead of looking for threats and problems to fix, which, by the way, beloveds, uh, please understand that if you are a problem fixing, if you're oriented to fixing problems, it's entirely probable that you're creating problems to fix that you don't have to. Okay. Because you're establishing your psyche that as a priority, which then your psyche says, okay, and we'll find problems for you. Absolutely, we'll find problems for you
And
or
there's a
create problems.
or create problems. Yeah, and that's one thing I just want to elaborate on that really quickly. Many examples where and folks listening, think about this. Maybe where you've done this in your life, where it's like something happens, you have to tend to, you have to respond to, and your psyche sees it as like, oh my God, it's overwhelming, or as an emergency or something like that. And then once you tend to it, even though it's very difficult because you're reacting or whatnot, and afterwards it's like, maybe that wasn't as bad as I thought it was, or maybe that wasn't as big of a deal as I thought it was. Now, a lot of people actually don't make that connection because they're kind of in that trauma cycle, but it's worth, looking at that. Maybe some things in your life, hurdles you've crossed that you thought were impossible or too big and difficult, painful, etc. But what you gained out of that, what, and perhaps that it was your interpretation. Chokai, we talk a lot about interpretation. It was your interpretation, your initial interpretation about the situation that you were reacting to, not the actual thing itself. And the interpretation is changeable. And this is such a great point. We should elaborate on this, please. It could be said our interpretations are running our lives, and how we're reacting to things throughout our days.
No, absolutely, absolutely. And see, and that's a thing that uh, perhaps a lot of people don't really notice or notice as deeply or clearly as they could. It's like, what you call your experience of reality isn't really your experience of reality. It's how you are interpreting your experience of reality. Okay. And that interpretation may or may not be accurate. Okay. And if it's coming from a fear-based place, it's probably not accurate, at least not 100% accurate. There's more to the story. There's a bigger picture, especially if you're coming from a fear-based place, and in some cases an anger-based place. There is a much bigger picture that is very different. Okay, and so learning how to notice your interpretation, because it's like if let's say you are about to go out for your day and it's raining. Well, some people love the rain. It's quite beautiful. They really enjoy both the sensation, the sound, everything. But a lot of people don't. And so they would call it a bad day. Well, the day isn't bad. And the day is certainly not trying to hurt you at all. It just is raining. And that's a preference. I have a preference for the sun to shine. And yet, if you're really honest with yourself, you might want to have a preference for rain too, because it's very necessary for your plant life, your wildlife, your gardens, if you have them. Certainly, somebody has a garden somewhere that you're eating from. Okay. And so it's very necessary. So it's not bad. It's just maybe inconvenient, or it's not matching my expectation, or things like that. And so when you get more honest and accurate about your experience, that changes your relationship to it. Okay. And so rain doesn't have to be a bad day. You can have a very pleasant experience of the rain once you detach from that interpretation. The thing is, most people don't think of their interpretations as interpretations because you were conditioned with them when you were a child, for the most part. And so, because of that, you automatically associate the experience with the interpretation. And it just is that way. It's not even questioned. And those are the ones that really have the most adverse influence. It's those negative beliefs that you don't question, those negative interpretations that you don't question, because they really are just two things associated. It's like in the story you were telling earlier about the child who said, if you feel bad, here, have a piece of pie. Okay, so those two things get connected in your head. You don't know to question it. You don't know that there are other options. As a matter of fact, you may think, wow, this is the key to life right here, is another piece of pumpkin or sweet potato or apple or pecan or whatever pie is your favorite. And that becomes glued together in your head, but it's just an interpretation. It's not fact at all. And so being more self-observant, noticing those thoughts, noticing those beliefs, noticing those interpretations, noticing definitely those assumptions, okay, allows you then to have some flexibility, because the reality you experience, the version of reality you experience, is what it is because you've told it to be that. The challenge is you probably didn't consciously tell it to be that. Okay. But think about it. You step out to go run your errands for the day and it's raining. You go, oh crap, it's a bad day. Well, then, you get to your first errand and you get a car flat, or someone yells at you, or, you step into a puddle up to your knee, or something like this is undesirable. Well, those things fall within the interpretation of a bad day, which you declared when you stepped out the door. Okay. And so it's just consciousness accommodating your interpretation. That's all it is. Well, you can reinterpret it right quick and begin to affirm the new interpretation like liquid sunshine. Okay.
I like that.
And if I had to run errands, I would rather be inundated with liquid sunshine than a torrential downpour, personally.
It's
Okay.
true. I decided years ago to stop judging the weather and stop determining how I feel based on the weather. So many people do. And, stop complaining and all of that. It's like, oh, it's too hot. Well, soon enough, you're going to be complaining that it's too cold, and it's like it sways people's moods all day long and it does not have to.
No.
Now, I have a saying that I share with people, which is about anything really. Is it worth sacrificing your peace?
Yes.
Is it
Yes.
is it worth sacrificing your joy today to go down that path and that interpretation? Now, that's just different from emotional triggers we need to process of old stuff. But these
Oh,
repetitive patterns of interpretation, we don't even realize it. It's just automatic. We have a choice. We have power here. But we're acting like whenever you complain, basically you're telling the universe you have no power, boo hoo, you're a victim. But you do. You can interpret it differently, and you can interpret your past differently. As you heal and release those traumas, you will be seeing from a new perspective, more from your soul's perspective, and you can actually gain the benefits. And that's another one of our teachings, I guess we'll bring up another time, is about gaining the benefits from everything. And you talk about the fast track to ascension.
yeah,
That's it.
absolutely.
That's one of
Yeah,
them.
for sure. And there's so many. We've discussed several of them today that may or may not be noticed for what they are, but they're there just the same. So I'm challenging everyone who's heard this to pay attention to which parts rang for you, because those are what's for you now. And then come back in a month or a year and see what parts rang for you then. Okay, because it'll probably be something different. If you've evolved at all, it will be something different. You know, but it's like, yeah, it's like this whole, it's important for people to understand that, while you're trying to control your external reality, okay, and to manifest your dream house, your dream car, your dream job, your dream relationship, your dream whatever, that's really the slow path. Okay. It's not that you can't have those things. It's not that it isn't okay to have those things, but be conscious of why you want them. Because nobody wants money for money's sake. Nobody wants a relationship for relationship's sake. There's something that you want to feel. There's something you want to experience internally. And why in the world? Well, I know why, but I'm going to ask it this way anyhow. Why in the world would you take the long path when the direct route right to your own heart is so much quicker and so much shorter? Okay. So, how many years or lifetimes do people spend trying to orchestrate their external reality to make them feel a certain way when they can just say, okay, peace is my path, I choose to feel peaceful. Joy is my path, I choose to feel joyful. Love is my path, I choose to feel joyful. And then, if you have a challenge at all, it's learning how to feel joyful or peaceful or loving in situations that where it's not easy to do. Okay. But not easy is not the same as not impossible. And not knowing how is not the same as not impossible either. Okay. Because you are fundamentally peace, love, joy. That is the substance of your consciousness. That's the substance of your being. It is your innate fundamental self, love, peace, joy. So it's not a matter of not having them to feel. It's a matter of not noticing them, not owning them as states of being. But those are your fundamental natural state. So they're always available to you no matter what. And you cannot spend, well, you can, if you want to, you can literally spend lifetimes or eternity trying to manifest external circumstances to provoke those inner states of being, or you can just let yourself feel them because that's who you are. And let the challenge be, okay, I'm in a situation where I don't like going out when it's raining and I feel a little fussy about that. And it's like, okay, and I can be at peace with that. I can enjoy with that. How can I look at this? What perspective, game of perspectives, what perspective can I use so that I feel love, peace, joy in this occasion of driving in the rain or walking in the rain. Okay. Learn how to demonstrate your mastery, your power that way, because mastery is not about external stuff. It's about mastery over your own consciousness. That's all it ever has been. It's all it ever will be. Okay. And the more you understand just how powerful your power of choice really is, the more you grow in mastery, if that's what you want. Okay. So,
That's a powerful note for us to conclude on. And we'll certainly come back and talk more about these subjects. So, bringing it back to joy, and we mentioned about facilitating.
yes.
Everybody take a deep breath who's listening, because this has been a lot. Nice big integrative breath. Let it go. We've possibly stirred up several things, and
Mm-hmm.
that's all a
Oh,
part of
yeah.
growth.
Yeah, I punched a button or two, I know.
Yeah, right, right. That's all a part of growth and evolution, because when you're stretching out of your boxes, you don't realize how many boxes you're in. People talk about the matrix. There's many matrices within matrices. So breaking out, there's going to be some discomfort, but there's also a next level of freedom, much greater freedom. And that's what this is all about. You're a grand soul. You're magnificent. You're already free, but your mind is trapped and is determining your reality, your version of reality constantly. Like you said, is constantly manifesting what you believe and interpret about yourself and the world and reality. And you have power over that.